Alrighty. Hey everybody, so I'm just going to do a little live stream here. Kind of work on a scene, make sure everything's good. Okay. So yeah, I just made this little prop here in Blender. It's kind of important to learn how to build your own sets and everything. So I'll show you how to actually do a couple of things when it comes to textures. We'll start off with the light. Well, I'll show you how to make an emission. So I like to go through here. So it'll look like this, but the next thing I need to do is press M for multiply and 1 and then left click, and then that's going to be your value. Convert the parameter. Fairly simple. And now emissive color. So I'm going to save it. And I can change it to 20. Save that. And now with my camera. There we are. It's gonna work. So right now I'm not going to let's actually discuss lighting for a bit. And that, but also let me actually do a couple things. So I'm going to go to my camera. And let me look for a lens flare. Yeah. Probably gonna have to decrease that by. There we are. That way it's not as distracting. But still, I think there are a couple of things what I'm doing right now. The first thing is anytime if I have a light source, I'm going to have either a point or a rectangular light. So when it comes to, and not only that, but I never film in white light. I don't do that. So I usually do reds, blues, but it kind of depends on what kind of mood. So let's actually get out of this camera here and I'll show you. And I had a few people asking me about lighting the last several months, and I can't teach it very well. Like I have to have a lighting kit in my eye, in my hands to tell people how to light. But the first thing I'm going to discuss is, well, one, we might need to do this too. I'm probably going to delete that and here. There we are. So the first thing I usually tell people is when it comes to lighting and everything is there are 3 kinds of lights for Unreal. There's directional, point, spot. Sorry, four, sorry. I screwed up. So there are 4 major lights here: rectangular, point, spot, 3 for high clone, 4 for Unreal. Sorry. So directional light is more for outdoor scenes. Point, spot, and rectangular light. Spotlights and point lights are pretty obvious, so I kind of use them for anything like this. And this for anything with a major light source. Now there's a couple of things you want to do. So let's actually go to this particular point light. And let's just move it up just a little bit. Right up here. There we are. So let's just actually go through the settings. So you have, so my unit measurement is a little different. I use lumens instead of candelas. That's up to me. It's just easier for me to track it down. The radius is usually the attenuation radius, so you can do this. Or you could do this. So I kind of, it depends. So let's just set it for 375. And then there's something called source radius. So let me show you the difference between 0. So this is kind of useful, especially if you have light bulbs or something like this. I like to at least set like a 50 or something, so it kind of, it's like this little ball. It's kind of what shows the light here. So for this, I'm going to do like 25. And then you have a soft source radius, which is kind of a similar thing. And then your length. Then there's something called color temperature. Sorry about that. Well, color temperature is pretty important. The one thing I see with iClone users who switch to Unreal, or any iClone filmmakers, or anybody who's not really experienced with lighting, is that they just use plain white lights all the time. And that doesn't create... It's kind of boring, to be honest with you, if everything is just... There's always some kind of color, especially when it comes to lamps like this. So for a lamp, I would use just a basic tungsten light. So that's 3250 degrees Kelvin. So that's how you usually measure it. So let's say this. So firelight is 2200 or 2000. And then obviously tungsten light's what we use here. Sorry, that is a little 3250. Here, that's usually standard tungsten. Daylight is 5500, 4000 here. I have videos about this that describes color temperature. You can also look online. There's plenty of resources. But for now, I just kind of keep it to a tungsten light. It's 3250. In fact, I'll kind of go to another set here. So here, then I used red. And red for this, I kind of expanded the intensity, but then once basically I'm going to kind of leave as is here. Let's use the camera. So for color here, I used a rectangular light here as a fill, and then a red, like a harsh red light, so it will produce this kind of effect. Something like this. So I think that's the most important thing, is just kind of play with color. Use kind of complementary colors as well. So I have a blue and red kind of mixed together. It's a lot more cinematic and interesting. And don't use plain white lights. It's just kind of avoid as much as you can. Just a little bit of color. Know like what the color temperature of fluorescent lights are, or even then if you want to use convey mood or storytelling, you can. So this is just something I'm kind of working with, and this is kind of a little lighting procedure I've started bringing it up a lot more to several other people, including one who's just starting out on Unreal filmmaking, and he wants to get really good at it. So I tell him, one, you have to know how to light, because Unreal is not friendly when it comes to iClone light. when it comes to lighting. iClone offers a very blank canvas, and Unreal, you're going to have to know. You're going to have to know how to light. So for her, let's just actually create one more. Let's create one more effect here. So let me get out of this camera here. One more light. So what I like to do is I'm going to create a rectangular light. Yeah, probably just going to... Yeah, you can see where the white light here. Let's just actually go to our camera and I'll show you. You can tell this doesn't look particularly too good. I mean, this is something I always see overexposure or underexposure. And I see this quite often where characters are baked in light too much because people just leave it or don't play with the settings. So let's just go through here. Yeah, let's actually just change it here. So I'll go to 5, maybe 2, 1. Just see how. Yes, it's sort of getting there, but I don't. Also, I'm going to change it to movable, so that way it's going to bake the light. Let's actually 0.25 and just kind of play with it. Okay. So next I'm going to kind of play around here. Usually I can do color temperature, but right now I just want to just play with the wheel here. So so you have a side of red. Yeah, let's just change it to blue. More purplish. There we go. There we are. So this is going to be much easier. They stand out better. I think that's kind of important here. Not only that, but when it comes to lighting, you gotta know where your light sources are. And you don't want to rely too much on lumen or just on the emission light. It's not going to give you enough power, so that's why you want to reinforce that with a little bit of either a point lights for these, or sometime, and I'll show you a case, I'll do directional light. Or sorry, not directional, I will do simple. Yeah, so she's looking a little bit better. Oh, so I kind of like the little backlight here, a little more cinematic. So I'll go to this one here, I'll show you. So I'll pull up Endgame, I'll pull up a set that I was working on. But first I want to show you kind of an example of my lighting setup. I'll be texturing that later. Okay, so everything loads. So yeah, I have actually both point and a spotlight here. So I have two kinds of lights here. I have a point and a spotlight here for this kind of lamp. And at the end, I actually do have a rectangular light here to illustrate that. Kind of shows like it's something you see in a lot of video games. So they usually have, like, it tells you where to go, what to focus your eyes on. And this is what you should pay attention to. So, let me go play this. If I could find this, I could show you. Also, yeah, the other thing I'm going to tell people is detail. Detail to your set design. So what I have is, I actually have this little interesting setup going here. I have concrete median. This is all from Megascans. You can actually make a lot of this stuff for free. This one here is a different set. Obviously, this one comes from Unreal. The street art is a decal set that I have. I wonder if you actually, let me go see. There's a sale that goes on tomorrow. So I kind of use this here. I kind of use a lot more street work. I kind of take advantage of decals, and I don't see many iClone people doing, like when they go into Unreal, they don't take advantage of decals because it's a completely new system for them. It was for me. Then I started using it more for like just to kind of add a little bit of variety to my sets. Oh yeah, Ultra Dynamic Sky is on sale too, so get that if you want to learn Unreal. If you want to make films in Unreal, get this. It's on sale, worth every penny. Even if it's not on sale, go get it. So yeah. So what I did was I created here. I set it for tungsten temperature, 3250 degrees Kelvin. Just gotta remember that 3250 is tungsten light. It's kind of imprinted in the back of my mind. It's 3200, 3250. Yeah, it's 3250 for me, but they say it's 3200, but I like to do 3250. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that's what I do here. Yeah, it's 3250 for me. I was taught that, but could differ. So let's actually go to the set here. Let's go to our character. I think it's new level sequence 1. Nope, something else. No. Oh, I had sequences. Yeah, I did. Okay, so this is the set. This is the... So I kind of have my camera set. First of all, if you ever have a camera in Unreal, there's a couple of things you need to do. So in project settings, let's actually go into rendering. So yeah, you want to have, this won't have it selected, so you need to have it selected. So hard ray tracing, ray trace shadows, and skylight, make sure that's selected. Turn off auto exposure and make sure it's in manual, because auto exposure is going to really annoy you. Here I have my light set it, my lights to lumens instead of candelas. It's just easier for me to kind of keep track of. You can do, it doesn't matter what you do, but personally I like using lumens. Separate translucency is always unchecked. And for lighting, yeah, just make sure that auto exposure is always off. I don't like auto exposure. Even in real life, I hate it because it wants to change everything for me. I'd rather, like, if I'm in a new scene or if I'm filming something out in the open, if I need to focus on somebody, I don't want to turn on auto exposure. I want to zoom in on somebody's eyes, focus, and then zoom out. I can easily do it in like less than 10 seconds for me. Zoom in, focus, zoom out. And then everything's good. And then when we go to my camera here. So for my exposure settings, I like to do everything manual. And then exposure compensation, just in case, that's kind of two settings you should pay attention to. So yeah, camera, here I have my shutter speed, ISO, and all that. Just something to pay attention to, don't rely on. A lot of people rely on that, rely on it too much. I think people are too dependent on auto and Unreal, or they don't just play around with the cameras. I mean, you have to have some skills with it. So, but I have a plugin here called Cinematographer Lite, I think, which is great. I think it's on sale too. Let me look. If you really want to get serious about it, want to make really good looking projects, this is a pretty good thing right now. Oh, it's 70% off for the Pro. That's where you can build your own body. Yeah. Pro is more, you can build your own camera bodies and everything. So if you have, like, if you're a camera guy and you want to build Unreal to your own system, you can actually use this. And I use the light one because You know, I just don't. You know, it's a little too pricey for me. But now it's on sale. But I don't know. I'll think about it. So yeah, I set my bloom shadow. You kind of see comes the lighting here. Blue lights kind of knows where you're going. Pay attention to that. Also, you kind of notice I did something called a squeeze too. So let me go explain this quickly. So the squeeze is mostly for anamorphic lenses. So if you're shooting like in a wide, you know, in a wide aspect ratio like this, people often use anamorphic lenses. So it kind of, so let's say, so you can see if anything's out of focus, I'll have to make one. I'll make a test project and I'll show you. So yeah. So yeah, you can see where the white light here, or sorry, the lighting here. Yeah, it just kind of works. I think there's a lot of depth, and there's just, and that's the thing. You have to work with color and depth, and that's the most important stuff to learn. Just don't shoot in plain white lights. Just shoot, kind of experiment with color, see what works, and color can be used for great storytelling purposes. It can create mood, shadows, depth. Learn how to play with shadows and see. Also, I want to show you guys something quickly when it comes to camera. So I'm just going to put my cursor right in the center. And when it comes to these action scenes with a lot of running around, you want to keep it easier for the audience to track around. That's why I don't like when it comes to camera movement. I feel like people move it around way too much in like stuff like dancing scenes. They move the camera. But they kind of keep the, you know, or anything with a lot of cutting, they move, and that to me is, it's going to wear out your viewer's attention. So yeah, if you ever want to do action scenes or fighting scenes, I like to keep everything right in the center. Boom. That way, you know, they see everything. They, you know, you have the scene here. Not that, but you ever notice that there's a little bit of a camera shake? And that's my blueprint. Especially when you're moving the camera, kind of like in this scene here, you kind of notice. Kind of gives a little more realism. Boom. And even the camera, like when I adjust, you kind of see where my keyframes are. Because I actually did have, I wonder if I have the Dragonfly. So I tried the test with Dragonfly, and like I had a couple of results. Let me go see if I can pull up Dragonfly. I had to run around like a lot of space here. This one's kind of weird. So I had this is actually done by an iPad. Obviously, this is done by the Dragonfly camera. So what I can do, let's actually experiment with squeeze. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it to 0.39, and there we go. Yeah, this was done by iPad, so I had to run around a large. You need some space with it. What I had to do is I kind of crank up the settings. But this was kind of like a blueprint for me to work with. So in the final version, I kind of keyframed it because I had an idea what to work with. So this would be the final version, which was keyframed. In fact, I wonder if I can actually show where the camera, like how the camera moves. So it's kind of interesting in itself. Let's play that. So, wait, when it's moving, boom. Now, the attention is going to go to her. And this one, normally I would have like a track or something, but I just kind of improvised. Like I just made little adjustments here, so whenever she's turning to avoid a certain object, which this was done in Motion Director, by the way, how the character's animated is through Motion Director. So she's going to run like avoid, and then the camera avoids, and like someone's there, like they want to avoid the object. So right through here, and I always kind of keep things eye level, like you're kind of in pursuit. Not like that, but you know, there's a little bit of a moment, like. So let's look at how the camera kind of does a little moment where it kind of looks up. Like we're seeing the wall and the street art here. And then it goes down, sees the action because I want to be right in the center of the frame when she does it. So you kind of, boom, like that. And then she exits. This took about a day to work with. One single day to work with right there. So let's actually go to in-game. Or actually, let's go to the other set here. Let me show you how I choose to like this. So let's go to the other set here. I think it's called Meeting Garage. And let's not save it. Okay. You can tell how I lit the scene. There's a little bit of a light blue, light blue, a lot of rectangular lights. Gotta notice that this whole scene is pretty much flooded with pretty much I think everything's shot through a rectangular light. Right here. Yeah, they're all pretty much rectangular lights. And that's how I got this scene here. There's a little bit of an oil spill for decal. Probably add a little more decal here. But you can tell by using, just kind of knowing where my fluorescent lights are. Here. And playing around with it, I can actually create my scene here. Obviously, I use ultra dynamic sky. There's a little bit of shadow here, so I'm not going to. So when I bring in the characters, that's where I'm going to build my lighting up a bit more. See here, there is one fluorescent light. So kind of, and all that, but I also kind of filled the set with a little bit of detail. I made this little part here. You know, just something, anything to kind of build set. Here, here, paintings, here, book. Made this little poster myself. You know, just a little bit, and I think that's the most important thing. Like, the biggest advice you can give to anybody who wants to learn Unreal and build sets, or build, like, productions, is learn how to design a set. So if I do this here, you can tell. So when characters are lit up here, you kind of play with shadows, lighting. You see a little bit on the couch because there isn't so much light here. You know, stuff like this. And it kind of gives a little more light to your scene. Yeah, this was all, and not only that, but the most important thing I like to do is, I don't like to rely on pre-built sets as much. This was all done through, like, just assembling a modular set. So I like to work with modular pieces. Same with that one. That alleyway was mostly just done through squares and planes. And some, you know, a couple of things like chain link fences and small stuff. But I like to work with, the more modular it is, the better. You know, the more control I have, I can build stuff off of it. I used to do stuff a lot with dads, but I just don't. It just kind of, I think it felt like more like limited what I could do than helped. So that's what I look for with Unreal stuff. Like, I like to build my sets. I like to kind of know. I mean, this is pretty similar to the demo map for this one, but I made a couple of changes to my own liking. I had to go and do a couple things in about 15 minutes. I might have to go and design a set or something, but yeah. Actually, let me show you guys Endgame quickly. So yeah, I'll have to, I'm actually about to shoot the scene pretty soon. Just kind of preparing a couple things using Rococo, and that's the thing about mocap. You have to learn how to really act in the suit. You can't really over rely. You can only go as far as you can take it with motion capture. But if you don't know how to act in it, that's where it causes problems. There's my little lamp thing I built in Blender. Okay. I think I call it interrogation. Dismiss. So same thing. I mean, to be honest, this is pretty much my set. You don't need to go overly too fancy. A lot of this stuff came from Mega Scans and some stuff you can find, like I found for free because of the Unreal thing, because they usually give stuff out every month. So it didn't, like, it wasn't very expensive or anything like that. This stuff was Mega Scans here. This was their storage pack. This was something I found on CG Trader really cheap a long time ago that I use. So, yeah, I mean, here you kind of work here. So what I'd like to do is, actually, I made a mistake here. So let's just combine the lights here. There. There's our set. Yeah, that's all it takes is just a little bit of kind of knowing where your light sources are. And, you know, using the camera here, I'll have to kind of play around with it a bit. Using good storytelling here. Obviously, something's going to happen here. Set design. Nothing with the scene, but especially with walls. Let's actually go to another set. And I'll show you the difference. Don't rely on seams. Like when it comes to walls, there's always kind of like a base. You know, something like this, I'll have to have it covered up. But yeah, you can tell. In fact, I think I built like a little concrete floor with a little bit like of a space in between. So I made that in Blender quickly and then just kind of, you know, stacked it because I like to keep things very simple. I like to work with modular stuff. So I can build my wall, I can build my little floor here, and there we go. That's it. Doesn't take too long. This set only took me like just about 20 minutes. I think it's this one or the other one we have to look into. I think it's a different one. Yeah, this is a different one. As you can tell, I kind of do a couple of drafts. This one is kind of tougher to do. So, there we are. A lot of this stuff is done through Mega Scans here. I'm still building up the pool. But you can tell what I'm doing. So I'm working with a decal. And I have this little set that I built. I call it a footer. And then I use, so what I do is I kind of find, let's actually find out. So when I make these little things here, I know like this thing is about 2 meters across. And I always make stuff in metric. Whoops. We're going to delete that. So when I want to set design, I just go off of 2 meters. So that's it. Stuff like that. It's very simple to do. And then I can build my, here I can build my decal. Just like this. And that, I can also, let's turn that off. There. But yeah, just those little things make a huge difference in your work. Honestly, this stuff has not gotten decal, so I'm going to turn that off. But yeah, you can tell it looks a lot more easier and a lot more better. I mean, it just makes a huge difference than just, you know, something like this, you know. Sorry. Something like this. There's a little more life into the scene. So that, I mean, that's what I've started doing with the set here. I still have a couple more things. I have to paint it and get everything all together, but it should be a pretty good set once it's done. A lot more detail and a lot more to work with here. I'll have to build something like this, so those will look like here, and then some walls here, some people hanging around. You can tell this has some decal work. I think this will look good by the time it's done. So let's go to another set. Let's go to, I think it's this one, but I could be wrong. About 5 minutes before I head out. Yeah, I'm going to have to. Let's see what the color temperature was for this. Yeah, it's a little bit better. And then he has more of a tungsten light, I think. More of a greenish light. So I have to work with this scene. So when I color correct it, it'll be easier. Use this one. Yeah, just kind of pay attention where my light sources are. Where I put them, how I work with them. That's something to know. This will easily improve your work tenfold. It's gonna take some time to load. Hey. Yeah, light is a little off, but it's really the exposure. So. So yeah, you see where I set up my lights. I have some box lights here, or sorry, rectangular lights. Work with it, kind of sets up a few things here. So let's see. nope. Church Street is a different thing. Sorry. No, wait for that to load. Or I'll probably call it good, but yeah, you kind of get the idea. So yeah, work on your lights, work on color temperature, rectangular lights so I know. Yeah, it's not going to work. Yeah, just kind of play around with lighting. Look at kind of teach yourself how to light, like if you're doing a live action scene. Work with box lights, look with light sources and everything. You'll see, and not only that, but play with color, depth, and shadow for your storytelling, and you'll become a better filmmaker. Go see what the pros do and how they explain it. So. Yeah, I gotta build that scene again. So, anyway.